But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. And so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to just add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart. I mean, we are so divided.
Is that a celebrity developing self-awareness? Is that celebrity Jennifer Lawrence, formerly one of the most annoying celebrities in terms of politics and just overall behavior? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and it appears that this is not an AI-generated video.
It's real, guys. It's real.
It is, in fact, real, and it honestly speaks to some positive changes in our culture, so this is something that I want to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
So right off the top, I want to disclose my biases to you guys out there in the audience, and one of my major biases going into this story is that I do not like Jennifer Lawrence, and not for the reasons that you guys are thinking, her political takes or anything of the sort. Long-term viewers of this channel know that I'm not a fan of Jennifer Lawrence due to the fact that she played Mystique in the rebooted/prequel X-Men movies that came out after the original trilogy and the Wolverine movie that everybody hated, X-Men Origins Wolverine. And the reason I don't like her is because she was so famous post the Hunger Games that in each preceding X-Men movie, she became a more and more important character, which would be totally fine if she wasn't playing Mystique, who's not that much of an important character, definitely not a founding member of the X-Men, definitely not a leader of the team. And honestly, I think that they actually had a wonderful cast with Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. X-Men First Class is one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, but it keeps getting ruined by the fact that Jennifer Lawrence delivers lines in such a monotone, I'm too good to be in a superhero movie kind of way, and then Fox kept putting her more and more at the forefront. So that is my bias against Jennifer Lawrence. It has nothing to do with her political takes. In fact, I don't even remember a lot of her political takes. I'm sure they were extraordinarily left-wing, but yeah, we got to put that on the table so we can understand what we're seeing right here, which is a New York Times interview where they're going over her taking time off to have a family, then coming back to Hollywood to work again. And of course, like all of these interviews, they have to push towards the politics. They have to ask her about the evil bad orange man because we all know Trump bad.
Trump simply
bad.
hearing Trump bad. Over again.
You have been politically outspoken in the past. Mm-hmm. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. I'm curious how you feel about talking out now.
I don't really know if I should. I think like the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? Like I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for.
So it's interesting that Jennifer Lawrence describes the first Trump administration as absolute chaos, as her running around or feeling like she's running around like a chicken with its head cut off, because in reality, celebrities are the most insulated people. They're surrounded by yes men, and she probably didn't have any negative effects personally at all whatsoever to Trump being president. In fact, Trump's giant tax cuts, as we're told a lot of times by people like Jennifer Lawrence, likely made it so she could keep significantly more of her money during that time period. And in reality, all of this chaos that was generated, all of this suffering and all of the problems weren't actually visited on her. Again, celebrities are the most out of touch, disconnected people on planet Earth, but when you're in and around a ton of people that are constantly concerned over this political thing or that political thing, even they could feel like their entire world is falling apart, even though Jennifer Lawrence was rising to stardom or was already a star, but becoming even more famous during the time period where she's talking about all of the chaos. But of course, we have the acknowledgement from her that celebrities make no difference at all in who people vote for, which I think is 100% true. And by the way, if you're basing your decision on whether or not a celebrity is going to endorse this person or that person, you're either part of the problem or somebody who probably was already going to vote Democrat, which honestly is like the same thing anyway.
I think I'm in a complicated recalibration because I'm also an artist, and with this temperature and the way that things can turn out, I don't want to start turning people off to films and to art that could change consciousness or change the world because they don't like my political opinions. I want to protect my craft so that you can still get lost in what I'm doing, what I'm showing.
So this right here, I actually find more interesting than the acknowledgement that celebrities don't change the way that people vote, because essentially what we're seeing is kind of a rollback to the Michael Jordan era of celebrities and or athletes discussing politics, which of course Michael Jordan has that famous quote, which is Republicans buy sneakers too. So what Jennifer Lawrence is realizing is that as she becomes more obnoxious, people don't want to actually watch her work. They don't want to engage with her, because when you constantly tell a significant portion of the potential audience that you absolutely hate them, you obviously are going to make less money. Your projects are going to be less successful. And this is a practical realization that she appears to have had in her time off from Hollywood. After she had a kid, after she grew up a little bit, after she stepped away from the limelight. And again, this is a good thing. This is a solid thing. Now, of course, a lot of people are going out of their way to rip Sydney Sweeney for saying this or something similar to this in relation to her American Eagle ad, but Jennifer Lawrence in this particular interview is not getting the same level of attention. Now, make no mistake about it, there are people 100% that are upset that she's saying that, it's not really going to make a difference, and I'm turning people off to art that might actually have something to say and should be able to speak on its own, and I don't want to do that. But of course, those people are the ones that always complain about everything, not validating their own personal political position.
And if I can't say something that's going to speak to some kind of peace or lowering the temperature or some sort of solution, I just don't want, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to make the problem worse.
Now, again, as somebody who actively despises Jennifer Lawrence for ruining the rebooted X-Men movies, which she absolutely did, 100% her fault, make no mistake about it, I actually appreciate the fact that she acknowledges that, yeah, the celebrities piling on, attacking significant portions of the country, that ends up becoming a story on its own, and it ends up promoting more and more division in the nation. And again, you're disconnecting people who could view your art, who might be moved by the messages that are interwoven in that particular story, in that particular film project, from even actually seeing it, from actually engaging in it. And by the way, we do have a much more fragmented culture now that we have all these different various streaming services where people can kind of curate their own entertainment. What we're seeing is that there are no cultural touchstones. There is no Sopranos. There is no Game of Thrones. There is no series that a significant portion of the population are all watching together and kind of bonding over. Everything is fragmented out, and in that fragmentation, what you see is that in order to draw in more attention, they're playing on the polarization in order to attract a narrower and narrower portion of the audience that needs to be pandered to constantly. And obviously, this is having an impact on Hollywood. This is one of the reasons why every time you see the Oscars, there's like 6 or 7 movies that basically nobody in the country has seen, and it didn't used to be that way. Now, make no mistake about it, there have always been overly political movies. There have always been niche indie films, real movies, as people like Jennifer Lawrence likely previously called them. But it feels like the disconnect between the Oscars and, what people actually watched and liked throughout the year has just been widening over the past decade. And it's honestly sad to see. We're not actually looking at like a Saving Private Ryan, which, by the way, should have won Best Picture, in the top nominations that everybody actually saw. It was the biggest movie of the year, and it was also one of the best movies of the year that was acknowledged at these award ceremonies. We're always seeing these weirdo indie movies that are actually about, some kind of LGBT relationship. 2 people saw it. It made $100,000 at the box office, but everybody pretends at the Oscars like it's the biggest thing and it changed the world, and then they gave the crazy speech or whatever. And it seems like Jennifer Lawrence, in her advanced age, after actually having a family, is starting to understand it.
I saw you at a press conference recently when you were speaking about Gaza point to our elected officials as the people who need to be responsible for answering those questions and not putting that on actors and other celebrities to sort of take a stand.
Yeah, just like if it's like looking at a chessboard, you just watch these actors' faces who have had incredible careers and done amazing things and made incredible contributions, that all of a sudden one half of the internet or one half of the country just can't stand anymore. They don't want to see their face anymore because of blah, 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 blah. And I get so upset for those people and those actors, and it just feels so wrong. So I don't know.
Look, again, I'm somebody who's not a fan of Jennifer Lawrence, but she is speaking to something that's 100% real here. You have a bunch of actors that have basically made themselves toxic to half the country due to the fact that they're just obnoxious and constantly obnoxious with their political beliefs. And yeah, if I were an actor, if I were in that position where I'm not actually supposed to cover politics, and somebody asked me a question or demanded that I take a stand on X issue, I would point them to their elected representatives, to the people who theoretically have the power to actually implement the change that is desired, rather than expecting the people who play Mystique in a movie or Pedro Pascal, who played Mr. Fantastic, to actually address every single political issue. It's not only absurd and an obnoxious part of our culture that we're constantly confronted with celebrity opinions, but it's also absurd that people expect this, that they want to get them all on the record, not realizing how damaging it is to something that could be a shared cultural touchstone for everybody in the country. Hollywood is something that has permeated American culture around the world. There may be disagreements with Hollywood, how it's run on the back end and all that throughout history. I totally understand that, but this is the way that a lot of people across the world engage with American content, engage with American culture, and it's one of the reasons why we become so dominant, even more so than we are militarily, culturally around the world. And yeah, alienating a bunch of people within your own country and making all of your art about how bad your own country is bad for the country.
I try to express myself and my politics through my work. I made a documentary called Bread and Roses about the Taliban retakeover in Afghanistan, and Zorofsky versus Texas about the abortion ban. Pretty much a lot of my movies coming out from my production company are expressions of the political landscape. That's how I feel like I can be helpful. That's how I feel like I can, bring awareness or do something.
So I left this part in because I actually think it is important to understand that this is not Jennifer Lawrence going to the right as dramatic people on TikTok are going to portray it. This is her saying, look, I don't need to personally express my politics and ward people off from my art. I think my art speaks for itself. I do care about these issues. Again, if you disagreed with Jennifer Lawrence before her hiatus, you probably still disagree with her. If you agreed with her, you probably still agree with her. But the art should be able to speak for itself. She should be able to highlight issues either in documentaries or highlight issues in terms of narrative pieces in the art itself, rather than actually lecture you, tell you what she believes in the most obnoxious way humanly possible. And again, I think this is a good thing because obviously we're going to have differing political opinions. We're going to disagree on issues, but the fact is we should try to have some shared cultural touchstones, and we shouldn't actually have every single figure as an individual be super polarizing, divide the country, because it's not good for us as a nation. And again, I'm not saying you have to like Jennifer Lawrence. I still don't like her. I still remember Mystique becoming way too important of a character in those X-Men movies, but I do like this change up right here. And maybe underneath the surface, there have been slight changes in her political beliefs, but that's not what we're talking about. And that's not what's being indicated right here, in my opinion. What we're seeing is actually a positive development for the country. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Jennifer Lawrence saying she don't want to talk politics. Till next time.